Whoa, hey there. Good morning, big guy. Last week on Sabado, we got to experience Spice Mass, Grenada's carnival celebration. This week, to prepare for our Pacific crossing, we talk about what we would do if we ever had to abandon ship.
You'd probably be best just hanging out with your mouth open.
Oh, I'm Holly. That's Ray. And this is our home, Sabado. Subscribe to tag along on the adventure. So, we are planning on crossing the Pacific next year. The passage is around 4,000 nautical miles and will take anywhere from 20 to 30 days. That's a big undertaking. So, one of the things that we're doing to prepare is making sure our safety equipment on board is up to date and in good condition. And today, we're having our life raft serviced. Alright, we're here at Sea Safety in Clarkes Court Marina. Our Plastimo 6-person life raft was already inflated when we arrived, so we got to check it out before someone from the Sea Safety team came to talk us through it.
Because it doesn't automatically inflate when you throw it in the water. You pull the painter, then the life raft bursts out of the canister and it inflates and you think, wow, this is great. And then the first thing you hear is this very loud hissing sound, and that's the pressure relief valves blowing off the excess gas, because the canister here contains about 30% more gas than you actually need. Okay, so you've outer lifelines all the way around the raft. You have inner lifelines inside the raft, an insulated floor, and the canopy is designed to close fully. So in the event of bad weather, you would close a canopy to stop water coming in. High-vis canopy, you've got retroreflective tape. You have your emergency pack, which is tied inside the raft, as in case the raft opens inverted, in which case you can, nothing is going to float away. You have an emergency knife for you to cut yourself away from the yacht. It has a very blunt end on it and a serrated blade. So if you're to drop it on something, it's not going to do any damage, and the blade is slightly serrated. It's just designed for one use, which is to cut yourself away from the yacht. This raft has one entrance and one boarding system, which is basically a ladder system. So it's designed to collect rainwater, but if you look at it, you know, you'd want a kind of a monsoon before you got a bag of water out of that. So it's not to be relied upon. You'd probably be best just hanging out with your mouth open. Again, it's a requirement. Every raft is supposed to have it, but it's one of those things that there's no real specification as to how wide the lip is supposed to be here or how far it's to protrude or anything like that. It's just a rainwater collection point, and that's it. What do you think a life raft is designed for? What's its purpose? It's not designed to keep you alive. It's designed to keep you afloat. What you do before you get in the raft is what keeps you alive. But let's look at the emergency pack and see what is going to save your life, what is going to keep you alive. Okay? Let's start with flares. Here we have 2 parachute rockets and 6 hand flares. Okay? The regulation states 3, but this manufacturer gives you 6, because they can say, oh, we're better because we give you more flares. We have the bailer, sponge, 2 flashlights, spare batteries and spare bulbs. We have what we call TPAs, thermal protective aids. It's almost like a sleeping bag that you would actually get into, and it's designed to retain body heat. Seasick pills. We have the service booklet. We have the pump. And we have the first most useless thing in a life raft, which are paddles. And I say they're useless because they are actually useless. Because every life raft will have ballast bags underneath. Once these ballast bags fill with water and deploy, there's no way in hell you're going to paddle a life raft. But some guy in the ISO office in Geneva says you must have them, so consequently they're in there. So clearly you can see there's not a lot in these emergency packs which is going to save your life. And you could be out there for 3, 4, 5 days. So you must bring water with you. And probably the most cost-effective way to bring water is to go to a chandlery and buy some of those blue jerry jugs. They hold 20 litres, so maybe you'd fill it with 17 or 18 litres of water. And you only have them when you're on passage, not when you're at anchor or in a marina or something like that. How do you get them to the life raft? Well, if you have a line on that jerry jug handle with a carabiner on the end of it, and you have a line on your grab bag handle with a carabiner on the end of it, you deploy your life raft. The life raft is now floating 30 feet away. You clip your water on, you throw it overboard, because the life raft painter is now stretching from the yacht to the life raft. So you clip on, throw it overboard. You take your grab bag and you clip that on and you throw it overboard. And then the crew go overboard. But before we talk about the crew going overboard, this is designed to throw to somebody who's in the water, who's floating away, potentially drowning. And that person grabs it and they put it around their elbow, and you do that and you pull it back to the boat. So if you want to feel that, how far could you throw that?
Depends on if there's wind.
Super light.
So we've just been introduced to the second most useless thing in the life. Because you've now deployed your life raft, you've clipped your water on and thrown it over, you've clipped your grab bag on and thrown it over. So why don't the crew clip on? Because when you hit the water, your PFD is going to inflate. And the bladder on the PFD is like that in front of you. So you can't turn over and swim because it just flips you. It's designed to flip you over onto your back in that kind of attitude with the inflatable collar around your neck, so you can't swim. The most you can do is kind of do this type of thing. But if you're clipped on to the painter, you can pull yourself down the painter to the life raft. This will not save your life. It'll keep you buoyant. If you think of number 2, the water, number 3, the EPIRB, and number 4, clipping on, you'll get all the crew into the life raft. Your EPIRB tells people you're in trouble and tells them where you are, and your water keeps you alive. Now I know that sometimes this sounds kind of brutal, but there's no other way really of putting it, because you're talking about survival. Who goes first? The general recommendation is the strongest, fittest person goes first, can then assist with everybody else. You all get into the life raft, you take a seasick pill whether you feel seasick or not, because guaranteed if one of you is sick in the life raft, you're all going to be sick. That's just simply the way it is.
What's the most common point of failure that you see on these rafts when you're servicing them?
Water ingress would be the first one, which plays havoc with the gas inflation system. The high pressure hoses kind of rot, and the cylinder heads and the operating heads can rust. There isn't really a point of failure on a life raft as such that's maintained regularly and that's kept in the right position. If that's done, then there's no point of failure on life rafts. They have a 15 to 20 year lifespan. Where we do see failures is things like people standing on the life raft and cracking the case and water gets in there. Or people stowing it in the wrong position, because most life raft canisters will have drain holes, and some people stowing it in a position where the drain holes are facing upwards as opposed to facing downwards. Or if the seal around the outside of the canister gets damaged in some way and not taking corrective action, even putting something like duct tape on there, water ingress is the main thing. The second major point of failure on a life raft are alkaline batteries. And it kills me. Why do manufacturers continue to put alkaline batteries into life rafts? Because alkaline batteries leak. after time they will leak. And if you think about it here in the tropics, you have a fiberglass box on board, subject to really, really high temperatures. These things ultimately will rupture, and the acid will burn through anything that's in its path. And in some cases we've seen it burn through the buoyancy chambers. My preference is to keep your alkaline batteries in your grab bag, your spare batteries, because there you can monitor them and you can tell when they're going to go nasty, but when they're inside the life raft, you have no clue what's happening in there. So that's the second major point of failure. I would caution the use of hand flares. Again, it's the ISO regulation says we have to have hand flares in there, but you've got something in your hand that's burning at 1,500 degrees Celsius. You're in a life raft. I would advise you to think strongly about a situation where you would use this. So just take that. I'm not dissing these, I'm just saying be really, really careful of a situation where you would use one of these in general and then in a life raft.
You know, I think that was a really great experience. I'm not super sure how the footage is going to turn out because it was kind of loud in there and we were with a whole other group of people, but I definitely think it was good information. The logistics of getting from your boat to your life raft was really interesting to me. I think it's something that's frequently overlooked. He talked about, you know, making sure the first person who goes is the person who is least likely to need help boarding the raft, which can kind of be counterintuitive if maybe you have kids on board or something. I also really like the idea of using your painter to clip your ditch bag and your water jugs so that you can just throw them overboard. I'm definitely going to pick up some extra clips and have those ready to go on our gear just in case we ever need to use it. And then of course, making sure your crew is clipped in as well. I also liked how he walked us through the consequences of using hand flares. We have a lot of alternative signaling devices in our ditch bag, but hearing what he had to say about hand flares really sort of reaffirmed our decision there. And I think overall, seeing what's included in our life raft, a lot of what we keep in our ditch bag is redundant, but I don't think I'm going to remove anything. I'm pretty happy with what we have in there. We did a video on it a while back. I'll link it down below if you're curious. But we also have our PLBs, our ePerb, handheld VHF, extra batteries, a Garmin InReach. We also have an Iridium Go, all the gadgets. So I think we can cross that off our to-do list. That was cool.